Let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, we do indeed thank you for each new day that you give us, Lord. We thank you that you gathered us here in your presence, and we ask that your Spirit would fall afresh and anew on us this day. Lord, we ask that you would open our ears and our eyes and our minds and our hearts to hear from you in a new and in a fresh way this morning. Now hide me behind the cross, decrease me and increase you in me, O Lord. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our redeemer. And all God's people say, amen. Amen. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs that voices never share. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence. The lines I just read are, of course, from the song Sound of Silence that we just heard this morning. And this is one of my favorites because the melody is so sad and so haunting. And yet when you listen carefully to the words, the song communicates a message that is true and needed and timeless. The message is a familiar one, echoed in the words God told the prophet Isaiah to say to the people of Israel. Keep listening, but do not comprehend. Keep looking, but do not understand. Art Garfunkel of the duo Simon and Garfunkel, who were the original authors of this song, once said that the song was about the inability of people to communicate with each other. Not particularly internationally, but especially emotionally. So what you see around you are people unable to love each other. I think he was right. The Sound of Silence was written in the 1960s during a chaotic and violent and confusing time in the life of our country. The Vietnam War and the protests of that war. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Civil rights marches and protests everywhere, and there was so much chaos and violence and confusion. No one knew what was happening in our society or what would happen. And no one was listening to the other person to find out. And then Simon and Garfunkel's song is born in the midst of all of this chaos. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. Our inability to listen to someone creates an inability to communicate well with someone. And how can we show our love for each other and God if we cannot or will not listen to another person? Love is an action word. And it begins with us listening to God and each other. Today's scripture reading is a familiar one, Mary and Martha. Today we see Jesus entering a village and a woman named Martha welcomes him into her house. And her sister Mary is also there, and she wants to sit at Jesus' feet and listen to him. But the scriptures tell us that Martha is distracted. In fact, the Greek term for her state of mind and spirit is merimnos, which means over-anxious or worried. Martha has many tasks that she's doing, and I'm sure she has added other tasks to her list to welcome Jesus into her home. In her over-anxious state, she asked Jesus, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me. Unexpectedly, Jesus says to Martha, 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 you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. Jesus' response makes us say what Martha might have been thinking. What, Jesus? Mary has chosen the better part. Which part? The part that sits on the floor with you doing nothing? over and over as Mary being the good disciple because she chose to sit and listen to Jesus, and Martha as the bad disciple because she was anxious and chose to complete tasks. But I want us to consider a different understanding of today's text. Jesus didn't want Martha to be like Mary, or Mary to be like Martha. Jesus wanted Martha to not become overwhelmed and worried about the tasks that she had to do. The social context of Simon and Garfunkel's song, The Sound of Silence, is sadly not much different from our context today. Today there's constant noise of ongoing news cycles telling us about the injustice and violence in our world. People killing other people. Leaders slandering other leaders and saying inhumane and unkind things in the face of tragedy and loss. Human beings trafficking other human beings. Leaders exploiting the lives and experiences of the poor to gain wealth. And we see all this happening on a national and an international level as we navigate the daily tasks in our own lives. We are nearing the time for kids to return to school, and for some of us, our to-do lists have grown even longer. School supplies and backpacks to purchase, school clothes to purchase, haircuts and doctor's appointments to go to. And we manage all these to-do lists, some of us while worrying about not having enough money to meet the bills. Or as one of my friends says, having more month left over at the end of the month. Not having enough food in some of our refrigerators. Worrying about finishing tasks at work, and for some of us, worrying about being financially settled and comfortable in retirement as we care for other family members and grandchildren. Church, with all these distractions and worries, when do we make time to listen to one another? How can we listen to others well? The answer may be simpler than we think. StoryCorps founder David Isay, he founded StoryCorps Project, which has been capturing the stories of everyday Americans across the country for a few years now. The StoryCorps booth is located in Grand Central Station in New York City, and people go there to record their stories with their friends and loved ones for others to listen to. As David Isay put it, it's the one time people put down their Blackberries and smartphones to listen to their loved ones. StoryCorps also published a book called Listening is an Act of Love, and in 2007, they had a radio episode or podcast with the same name. And in this radio episode, there was a woman named Mary Kaplan. And she tells the story of how she was a caregiver for her brother who died from AIDS. Mary talks about how when she went into the StoryCorps booth at Grand Central Station to record her story, she didn't expect that she would be talking about something so sad and so private as her brother's death from AIDS in such a public way. But in Mary talking about her brother, she also mentioned that she remembered a memory she had long forgotten. A stranger who showed her such love and kindness during her time of grief. Mary, still feeling alone and grieving her brother's death from AIDS at the time, went into a card shop to buy a sympathy card for someone else who had lost their loved one. And while she was there, she met a stranger. And Mary said to him in a whisper, "My brother died from AIDS." The stranger listened to her and then said, "Oh, you don't have to whisper to me." And he gave Mary a hug. Mary said in that moment, even though she did not know this stranger, she loved him because he listened to her. It really is simpler than we think. Loving someone by listening doesn't mean listening for facts or listening to be right and to make others wrong. Loving by listening means hearing what another person isn't saying and discerning what they need the most and then giving it to them. Jesus reminds Martha of this when he tells her, "Martha, Martha, only one thing. Jesus' words to Martha are not a reprimand for her being task-oriented or for being concerned about the work of hospitality, for this is who she is. In church, by God's grace, God has made some of us to be task-oriented people, list makers who think about the details and logistics of ministry so that others can be loved well and can be listened to well. We need task-oriented people in the kingdom of God because they keep us on mission. Jesus also did not do what Martha wanted him to do and reprimand Mary for wanting to sit at Jesus' feet and listen to him. For this is who Mary was, relationship-oriented. And church, by God's grace, God has made some of us to be relationship-oriented people. Loving others by sitting with them and listening to them share their lives and experiences. We also need relationship-oriented people in the kingdom of God. Those who are not concerned with the constraints of time necessarily, or schedules, or to-do lists, so much as they are concerned with nurturing and developing deep connections with others for the glory of God. Jesus took Martha to task for becoming overwhelmed to the point of anxiety. And he affirmed how both Martha and Mary were made and how both of them were called to serve. If we were all task-oriented people, we'd be a bunch of folks who are only interested in the tasks and work of ministry to prepare spaces and places for others to meet God. And I can assure you that the church would run real efficient. Likewise, if we're all relationship-oriented, we'd be a bunch of folks who are deeply interested in relating to others only and sitting in God's presence through ministries of prayer and counseling and care so that others can meet God. Caroline Lewis, professor at Luther Seminary, puts it this way. The story of Martha and Mary is not a story of comparison, but completion. It's not about who is better, but when is better. Not about what is better, but why is better. Perhaps if we allow for a more nimble and gracious view of the kingdom of God, we might be able to imagine more of our world as part of it, even ourselves. Church, God constantly calls us as Jesus' disciples to discern when to serve others and why to serve them in his name. And we do this by listening for God and to others through the lens of Jesus' love. Good Shepherd Church, we are sometimes worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Need of the one, Jesus Christ. Prolific author and Nobel laureate Toni Morrison died this week. Our world lost a brilliant, funny, wise woman who wrote such works as Sula and The Bluest Eye and a bunch of other books and poems. Toni Morrison, through her literature and her life, taught us how to love deeply by listening to other stories. Morrison talks about loving by listening in her poem, Someone Leans Near. Listen to the words. Someone leans near and sees the salt your eyes have shed. You wait, longing to hear words of reason, love, or play, to lash or lull you toward the hollow day. Silence needs your fear of crumbled star ash sifting down, clouding the rooms here. You shore up your heart to run, to stay, but no sign or design marks the narrow way. Then on your skin a breath caresses the salt your eyes have shed, and you remember a call clear. You will never die again. Once more you know, you will never die again. Church, God leaned near to us and loved us so much and listened to our broken souls and spirits so deeply and sent us Jesus, who we needed most, at the time we needed him most, to be saved and reconciled to God. We love others by listening to them through the lens of God's gracious love. And we meet them where they are based on what we hear God saying to us and what we have heard others tell us about what they need most. Not what we want them to have or think they should have. Christ did this for us. Let us go and do likewise. Amen.
Amen.
And now let us continue in our worship.